So let's talk physiognomy. First, what is physiognomy exactly? According to Britannica, physiognomy is quote-unquote the study of systematic correspondence of psychological characteristics to facial features or body structure, which basically means the practice of assessing a person's character or personality to the outer appearance, especially the face. As for some general information, the word physiognomy comes from the Greek word physis, meaning nature, and gnomon, meaning judge or interpreter. The study of physiognomy also relates somewhat to the study of pseudoscience, a collection of beliefs or practices mistakenly regarded as being based on a scientific method. Now, for an overview of the history of physiognomy before we get deep into it, the practice of physiognomy was very welcomed by the ancient Greek philosophers, and during the Middle Ages, a few more disputes and contradicting opinions were exchanged. However, it regained popularity because of the 4 volumes of Physiognomic Fragment by Johann Caspar Lavater before becoming disfavored in the 19th century. Now, a little bit deeper into the history of physiognomy. So by the 4th century, philosopher Aristotle was persistent as well by engaging theoretically to the relationship between appearances and character as mentioned in his prior analytics. It is possible to infer character from features if it is granted the body and the soul are changed together by the natural affections. I say quote-unquote natural, for although perhaps by learning music, a man made some changes in his soul, this is not one of those affections natural to us. Rather, I refer to passions and desires when I speak of natural emotions. If then this were granted and also for each change, there is a corresponding sign, and we could state the affection and sign property each kind of animal, we shall be able to infer characters from features. Furthermore, the first works of Aristotle were divided into 2 parts. The first one focusing on arguments drawn from nature and other races, as well as approaching human behavior, while the second one focused on animal behavior and the separation between species in the animal kingdom. However, while this is doing great, the first appearances of any developed physiognomic theories actually took place in the 5th century BC Athens, created by Zopyrus. As for during the Middle Ages and Renaissance period, physiognomy was at first accepted. However, around 1530 and 1531, it was the time when leaders in relation to schools and education started to know more about the Greek form of physiognomy, and that was the start of the dismay with physiognomy as it was taught in the English universities. Also, in the 16th century, the famous Leonardo da Vinci was a firm believer that physiognomy was not false and believed that facial expressions could lead to certain personality traits, quote-unquote, for those who have deep and noticeable lines between the eyebrows are graspable, which is probably due to the fact that when one is angry, they tend to hold it between the space in the brows. Generally thinking from a very simplified perspective of physiognomy, it is somewhat accurate and truthful because let's just take concentration face as an example. It has a name for a reason. And when one is concentrated on a task, their brain are most likely focusing on the task at 90% or more, like maybe 100%, and the face shows that. The face doesn't really display any smiles, which is associated with happiness. And when one focusing on a task, they aren't necessarily happy or sad, just focused and determined to get it done. Studies have also shown that most people subconsciously make a face such as frowning a little bit and putting tension between the brow area. Another example can be meeting people. We, as humans, want to look presentable and make a good first impression on the important people we meet, or on anyone we meet, actually. And that starts with the appearance, because it's the first thing that the other person takes in and perceives of you. Speaking from personal experience, by the way, usually a welcoming, awkward smile is plastered on my face to make sure that I'm not coming off as uninterested, rude, or impolite. And these are all factors related to physiognomy, as it highlights the relationship between one's outer expressions determining their personality and how they are as a person. So just to finish up, I'm not really a professional or anything, as you can clearly see on this topic. It is just something I simply piqued a random interest in for a couple of seconds of my life, and here I am making a video of it. But maybe physiognomy can be helpful in certain situations, but I'm not quite sure how that can age considering how it was kind of neglected for a few years. But what are some of your thoughts?